Well, we'll begin. We've got our blue steel all ready, and we've selected the collet by marking the diameter of the blue steel we need, which is 2 mm. Now we take our pattern mounted in the modified screw remover, hold it against the blue steel mounted in the collet, and we allow it to just be protruding from the collet enough so that we can turn the top half of the staff down to the balance seating, and allowing a little bit more so that we've got room to do a bit of turning on the blue steel below the balance seating to form a reference area for us to true up on when we reverse the collet to reverse the blue steel, or the part made staff in the collet to work on the bottom half. So we start off by presenting the pattern to the steel bar, or the blue steel, hold the graver against it, run the lathe, and that scribes a nice little ring around the blue steel, and that ring indicates where we want the base of the balance seating to be. We just hold the staff against the mark again to make sure we've got it right. Well, we need to allow a little bit more than the actual length of the staff that we've got here, so that we've got room to adjust the end shake. So my estimation is my ring could be doing just a little fraction deeper, so we can correct it at this stage, no problem. We've got the ring exactly where we want it, the scribed ring. So now we start turning away the surplus metal at the top of the staff, and we turn this away quite quickly because we know we've got a fair way to go, and we turn it in a tapered fashion. The reason for this tapering action is to save the need for lots of measurements, because obviously every time you stop and take a measurement you lose a little bit of time. So what we do is we don't use a micrometer or anything at all. We use the wheel to just check the diameter as we go. We offer it up. Now the wheel has started to enter onto our tapered piece of blue steel. Now we know that we can turn it down almost to that diameter, and that it'll still be too large for the wheel to travel down towards the balance seat. So we can reduce the taper and take it almost parallel to the point where we knew that the wheel was lodging. Now this has two advantages, doing it this way rather than measuring it. We know the balance seat diameter, 1.4, but by doing this, if for any reason the balance wheel has been opened up at any stage, we won't make a staff that needs a lot of riveting to secure the wheel. And of course the more you rivet it, the more there is a tendency to distort it, so we don't want that. So anyway, we're reducing the taper now down so that we can control the speed at which, or the amount of metal we take off. Now the wheel is well away from the seat, so we can take off a bit more quite quickly. Let's see where we go. Keeping it at a shallow taper though, because we don't want to go parallel yet. No, we're within about 1 millimeter of the seat, so we start to go a little more gently now, because 1 millimeter is nothing. Every time you present your graver to the work, you'll remember, if you use the slide rest tool, that you're taking off twice as much as you think you are, because what shall we say, 1/100 of a millimeter on this side is 2/100 off the diameter of the work. Well, there we are. We're down to the seat now. We've got the wheel on there with a close-ish fit. I mean, it could be a little bit tighter, but it's quite okay. Now the next thing is to mark the point, which is the height of the rivet. So we carefully set the wheel facing onto the seat, and we just hold the graver against the work and make a little mark there, which tells us the top height of the rivets of the rivet. Now, my little helper has come to join me, so get down so far. We start turning the balance spring arbor. Once again, we use this tapering action, or tapering mode, so that we can, now this time we're using the micrometer. Now we've got to turn it down to 1 millimeter. Now I've produced this taper, which I should think is visible to you, and the very top of the taper is 1.5 millimeter, so I know that I can turn down with relative confidence parallel to that diameter, and I know I won't be going below where I need to be. Once again, turning quite positively, but keeping in mind that I mustn't go below the diameter of the end. I mic up the 1.2, so right where I want to be is just 2/10 up. So we go carefully. 2/10 will soon disappear with a small diameter like this. Yes, we're down to just over 1/10 now. And of course, the smaller the diameter, faster the metal disappears. Still 105 at the top and 110 at the bottom, so you better be careful. Now you can run into the shoulder with the point of the graver here, because any undercutting you do will help to form the riveting area. Yes, we're down below 1 at the top and we're 105 at the bottom, so you need to go carefully. Now we can afford to end up with a very slight taper. I know, strictly speaking, a collet should be on a parallel surface, but for practical purposes, if there's a very slight taper, it doesn't matter, as long as it is only slight. There we are, we're 0.04 of a millimetre up at the base. We'll take a little bit more off. And of course, taking very fine cuts leaves a nice fine finish. So we're still 0.03 up. Turning in this fashion with the graver upside down, as some people say, it does give you a lot of control. There you are, we're 1/100th up now. Well, I don't think I shall worry too much about that. I think 1/100th, almost at the bottom. It gives you very fine control, and also it enables you to see the metal that's coming off very readily. And if you have a slip, as you can do when the work's getting smaller and the gap between the T-rest is getting larger, all that's liable to happen is your graver will pass over the work. There's no risk of the graver running under the work. I'm not taking anything off now, I'm just sort of doing a polishing action with the graver just to fine finish it. So there we are, right down the bottom it's 1/2 1/100th, yes, that's right, that's nice and close. Now, presenting our pattern again, we look at the staff, and this time we look at the height of the hairspring collet. Not that it's critical, but we want it roughly about the same as the original. So resting the pattern against the job, we rest the collet, top of the collet seating, or the collet arbor, on the top of the staff seat, hold the graver in place and make a ring. Now I think that moves slightly as I did that, yes. Yes, so I'll make another ring. Always go back and double check it's, yes, there we are. The ring's gone on in the right place. So now we just turn this down quite rapidly. This is not a critical diameter. This is just the reduced area for the start of the pivot. Just sort of turn it down so that it looks right. It's not, as I say, it's not critical. We don't want it too thin so that it looks flimsy. But we don't want it to look like a poker. So we turn it down and take the opportunity to put a little chamfer on top of the hairspring seat. Now, we don't really want this to be parallel, this bit. We want this to have a slight reverse taper, but we won't put that on for the minute because that might weaken it. Next we're going to turn the pivot. Now pivots, for conical pivots, I usually turn starting off with a parallel section. I don't worry about the conical bit until I've got a change eyeglass so that I can see a bit better. It's not going to help you, but I should at least be able to see what I'm doing. Yes, I turn it so that I've got a parallel section, a parallel pivot, because although this is going to end up as a conical pivot, it's got to be parallel on the business part. That's the bit that's going to run in the jewel hole, because if it isn't parallel, any end shake will cause the staff to bind. And believe me, this can be a bind, because if you've got to adjust the watch in various positions, you can have very slight binding, which is hard to detect, yet can affect the performance quite dramatically. So you want the pivot to be nice and parallel over its operating area. We're going to come down to 16, we're down to 20, or 1.6, we're down to 2. And so if you start off by making it parallel, you'll not have any difficulty. And I think it's easier to see whether a pivot is parallel against a square shoulder. Yes, we've got a bit more to come off yet. You don't have to turn the pivot right down this far. There's no reason why you shouldn't take it off with a sapphire file or a burnisher file or anything you like when they're in the Jacko tool, or well, obviously the sapphire file in the lathe. But you know, we're coming down to a 1.6 pivot here, which is quite large really. so you might just as well turn it as close as you can, because the metal comes off quite quickly. There you are, it's 1.7, so we'll leave that just 1/100th up. Now we'll produce our our conical section, which we do. Now you can do this with a shaped graver, a graver with a radius tip, or if you're working as we are here, making a sort of an everyday staff, which it's just got to look roughly right, not got to be an absolute exhibition piece. You can do it by pivoting the graver, resting it on the ridge or the square section, or the corner of the back of the graver, and swing it. Now you can swing it quite nicely, and you can produce quite a nice conical pivot. Now once again, you can, if you wish, tidy this up. Unfortunately this has got a little bit magnetised, so the whiskers are sticking to it. You can tidy this up with an Arkansas stone or the edge of the graver or whatever you like. But I won't bother to do that. I'll leave it just as it comes, and you can see that with a little bit of practice you can see what's possible. But I quite understand that if you're not confident to do that, it's safer to do it with an Arkansas stone. Now we put this reverse turn in here, which makes it look a bit like quality staff. And I used to say the reason for this was to stop oil creeping from the jewel hole and getting onto the balance staff and working its way down onto the balance spring. Well, I think if that were ever to happen, this might stop it, but I would say you've grossly over-oiled it. Now, the top part of the staff is virtually finished. We can take our graver, which looks a bit like a parting tool, and get in behind the balance seat and turn a little flat area that we can use to just true up on when we reverse the staff and start work on the bottom part. We're not looking to take off a lot of metal, we just want a nice turned area with a smooth surface that we can use as a reference, that we know is running concentric with the top half of the staff that we've just made. Because although collets are accurate, they're not absolutely accurate, and I suppose some would say that the only way you can get it really accurate is to turn it between centres, but that's nowhere near as quick as turning in the collet. So we can get it very close this way, and I've turned lots of staves using collets, and by taking a few simple precautions you can you can produce an accurate staff which has not got any is as true as I think as you'd get one turned between centres. So there we are. Now what we're going to do, we're going to draw it out of the collet, measure the bottom length, taking our staff mounted in the modified screw holder again, and holding it up against the pattern we've just produced, or the staff we're holding the pattern up against the staff we're producing. We make a mark, hold the graver, boom, and just check that we've got the mark in the right place. line up the seating with the top of the seating, yes. Now, we put this mark also slightly further down than needs be, because once again we want a little bit of room to be able to adjust the length of the pivot and be able to set the balance in the watch so that it, or the clock platform as it is in this case, so the balance wheel runs exactly where we want it to. Now what we're doing is we're turning a deep V here. We turn right up to the line of our mark. So that we know how far we've got to go. Now we leave it like that, draw it out of the lathe, and we mic the, we're going to hold it on the balance seat, so we mic the balance seat to see what size collet we need to hold the other end of the staff. Well, it's 145. Now that's interesting. The old balance staff had a balance seat of 140, so ours is 5/100ths larger than the original, which means that we've got a closer fit and we're not going to have to push so much metal over to in the form of a rivet. So we'll insert this in a collet, a number 15, place it in the collet on the balance seat and snap it off. So we've snapped it off. Take a piece of pegwood and press it gently while the collet is still loosely holding it against our reference area. It's running nice and true, and we can commence work on the bottom half. Well, here we are, all ready to get started on the bottom half. I just dropped a piece of blue steel. I took the opportunity while we were while I had it out of the collet of demagnetizing it, because it was beginning